Evening all, and I felt like, what was that old copper that used to do a show? Evening all. Um, Welcome to another show on a Friday night. Again, it's been a bit harder for me to do this week because, to be honest, I've been out there in the weathers and I felt a bit rough this morning. I didn't think I'd do a show, but I'm great. I feel good again. So fought my way through it. That's what us Wolves fans do. You know, if it had been Villa or Albion, I'd have probably called off the show. But Wolves fans, we just keep carrying on. But hey, ain't we all just about fed up? I keep hearing people say they're just fed up with the weather and whatever. And yeah, you know, there comes a point. I think somewhere in England's had 31 days of constant rain. I think it was down in the southwest somewhere. So yeah, I mean, it is getting on everybody's nerves. And people say to me, you know, why do you go in such conditions? Well, you know, I have to say I got nothing better to do. I really haven't got anything better to do because I just enjoy it that much. I really do. Mike Eagles today, three pike out in the rain, enjoyed every minute, and that just about sums it up. If you're an angler, which you know you're listening there, if you ask me what you know why do I go out there, then I have doubts about you being a serious angler because you know it's obvious why I go out there. You know I don't go out there to get likes on Facebook. You know I'm 74 years of age. I ain't after likes and sort of gratitude and sort of everybody saying well done or well done. That is of no consequence really. That's just an added bonus of people appreciating that. Hopefully I inspire people. But at the end of the day, I just do it because I actually love going out doing it. From the minute I'm doing my breakfast to the minute I come back, I enjoy the whole thing. And to be honest, you know, another friend and excellent angler, Ray Prickett, died this week. And, you know, you think to yourself, hey, you know, he's around my age and he died. You know, my father died at my age now. So, you know, you've got to make the most of it. You really have. And that's what I'm aiming to do. And to be honest, you know, I can't think of anything better to do with my time, and that's just sit on the bank catching fish or not catching fish or just being out in nature. You know, it really is. So, you know, that's what I do, and that's what I'm continuing to do. So there you go. What I can say is just be careful with the flood fishing. You know, I don't personally like flood fishing. That's why I don't do it. Beside it being dangerous or whatever, I just don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy having you know sort of weed all up on the rods and having to fetch it in every 5 minutes or whatever. You know, I just don't enjoy it. But that's me. I know some people do, and so you know because of the weather, the options. I think I've just answered Osborne. Is I said, what are your thoughts on floodwater fishing? You know, I don't like it. I don't like it, Oz, and I don't do it. I never have really. You know, I've give it goes and sort of, you know, I don't care how big the fish is, especially as I've got older. You know, you think, you know, I do want to catch big fish, but I want to enjoy them. I don't want to just catch them and say, look what I've caught. You know, I've caught this big fish. I don't. If I enjoyed flood fishing, I'd be out there all the time. I'd be out there now and no doubt finding a few fish, but I don't enjoy it. In fact, Lawrence Blakesby was just come on. I know Lawrence enjoys flood fishing. I'm not silly flood fishing, but I know he enjoys water that's up and just on the drop. And, you know, great. But I don't enjoy that. Okay, but let's go to this week. What options I actually did have, and the options I had again was perch. You know, I've got a water Steve Greenway, fishing with Steve mainly. Although Steve hasn't been on there a couple of times with me, he's had other things to do for family commitments, etc. And you know, again, typical. You know, that this week has been really, really bad weather. There's been rain, there's been wind, etc. But you know, I've got out the car and I've put my brolly up. In fact, the other day I had two brollies up. You know, making a little cave, and put that up and fished. I was warm. I'd got the right clothes on. I got my zero fit. I'd got my Nash coat on, over trousers, good boots. I was as warm as toast. I really was. And I was really comfortable. I was enjoying not having the takes. In fact, there's a couple of times thinking, the last thing I want at the moment is a take because of the rain, and then it'd stop and think, come on, get a bite. It was I've enjoyed it. And the other day, that 3-6 there meant so much because I'd fished through the day and people were saying, oh my God, you're enduring. I wasn't enduring anything. It was fantastic. I wouldn't get through the pain barrier. I wouldn't do that for me fishing. So it was enjoyable. And then right in the afternoon, when I didn't think I was going to have anything, I had a small one about 1.5 pounds, and then this beaut at 3-6 turned up a cracker on the live bait. So there you go. I've noticed that we've got the people on here that's just having a go. I thought we were here to protect fish, and there you are. Diminishing stocks. Well, I'm using probably 2 and 3 ounce roach, which there's millions of. So I use about 6 or 8 of those a session. A couple of 3 times a week. Not exactly slaughtering the stocks of very small roach. And believe me, one pike in one mouthful would probably take the amount of fish that I'm using in a week. So I don't feel guilty for that. And if you really feel that bad about a little roach being used as bait, then I think actually, there's a lot worse crimes going on at the moment to be worrying about that. But a great session. As I say, again, the weather's awful, etc., etc. But it's not that bad, eh? It's great being out there, and I'm enjoying it immensely. I should be out next week doing the same again, and no matter what, I tell you what I would like. I'd like some of it to come into snow so we could have snow, and I'd love a 3 pound snow perch. Just imagine the photos and the inspiration you can give people to get out there. It really is. Okay, just before I go away from this week, I have been asked to about my opinions on there's been an upsurge on the match anglers have got interested in the cormorants and the damage they're doing and all that. I have to say, and I say this to everybody now, that I've played my part. For 10 years I've been on about cormorants. For 10 years I've been on about gooseanders, cormorants, predation, pollution. And suddenly, Steve Ringer's going to have a go, and somebody else is having a go. Good luck to them. I hope they have a better response than I have. Perhaps nobody takes any notice of me. I don't know. But I all I can say is that, I've paid my dues, and all I've done is get strange calls at night, which I still do from people. If this about the last 6 weeks, I've been having calls on a Saturday and Sunday night, strange people, and probably people that have heard some of the things I've said. So what have I got out of it? Nothing. And it would have been worth it if somebody had done something about the cormorants and the otters, but nobody took any notice. I hope they take notice of Steve Ringer and this about cormorants now. Neil Spalding, actually, just before the show, asked me about the pelicans. Really, Neil, to be honest, again, I could say what I really think about pelicans, but I don't know enough about pelicans. I do know that they eat vast volumes of fish, and we haven't got enough fish to eat. To keep eating the stocks that's being took away from us. It's like the pollution isn't doing enough. We've got another predator. But let me just tell you a little story, and I've told it a few times on here, and I'll tell it again. This is where we're at with fish. I went to Minsmere, the RSPB, of which I'm a member, an RSP member, and I went to Windermere, Minsmere. I've been to all those. Went to Minsmere, and myself and the wife, hired a guide, and he took us round, and he was absolutely super. The bloke was A1. We learnt a lot. We learnt a lot about the different species of birds, etc. That nested there and bred there and whatever, the animal, the wildlife, and whatever. And he said, the information was limitless. It really, really was. Then when we got to the lagoons, there was a bittern there, right by the side of the viewing shed there, and they called it the friendly bittern, which I'd have liked to see another one. Everybody see this, he's just like a friendly bittern. It was almost, you could feed it, and he was eating a small fish, as they do, and I said, "Wow, that looks like a hybrid. That looks like a roach bream hybrid." To the guide, and he said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Is there much hibernation in the lake? You know, what are the stocks? Are they, interbred and whatever?" You know what he said? After all the knowledge he knew about everything, he knew about otters, he knew about cormorants, he knew about lapwings, he knew about black red starts, lapwings, deer. He knew about everything on there, and yet a big area, the lagoons, the water. He said, "I don't really know anything about the fish stocks. I don't think, all I will say," now here's the point. Here's the real point. He said, "The only thing I will tell you is there's enough to keep the birds from starving. They've got enough food." And I thought, there you go. That's all they are. Something to feed the birds. And that's where we're at. As long as otters are okay, as long as gooseanders are okay, as long as cormorants are okay, that's it. And that's where we're at. Sad, but that's where we're at. Okay, let's go to the Angling Times. The Angling Times this week, again, I always bring this up, that, people that don't buy it, I don't get a percentage of how many they sell. So I'm not into for sales, but I still am a firm believer that there's a place for the Angling Times, and there was a place for the Anglers Mail, and I wish that hadn't gone under. I didn't write for the Anglers Mail, but competition's good, and the magazines and the Anglers Mail that went on. I'm so sad for angling that they did go, but this I always say, look, if you only learn one thing for a couple of quid, it's worth it. I think they're doing deals now. £1.60 for a copy or whatever. Isn't that just paying somebody? If you could just pay me £1.60 and say, "Des, can you just give me a tip that will catch me another fish this week?" You'd say, "Yeah, that's got to be worth £1.60. People pay me a lot of money to take them in a day for tips how to catch fish. So £1.60 is not a lot, or £2 or £2.50 or whatever the deal is at the moment in time. So, but I thought that the lovely article on Catch Your First Pike, there's a lot of kids going out there. There's a lot of kids lure fishing. There's a lot of kids catching pike for the first time. And that first time is when you're going to in danger of hurting yourself and hurting the pike. So it's great that there is an article there to show you how to look after, show you the tools you need to look after them. Because the most important part is not catching them. You need to learn how to look after them first. That's the main thing. Once you know how to look after them, then, catch the big ones and 20s, 30s, 40s, whatever. But at this moment in time, for your first pike, catch some small ones, learn how to unhook them. Because, to be honest, the smaller ones, once you learn with smaller ones, they're much easier than the big ones, because a big one's, the mouth opens easier than the small one. So learn on those, and I thought that was quite a good... a good little article. The other thing, the Angling Times have brought out another John Wilson book. It's a tribute to him. It's a limited edition, and it's out now, so it's available in the Angling Times. And he was announced as our greatest angler. And I'm asked about that regularly. Was he the greatest angler? And I always say I think he was. That we had course angler, the greatest. Yeah, because how I announce him as the greatest angler, I don't think he was the most skilled angler. I don't think he was the most successful. In fact, I know he wasn't the most skilled angler, and he wasn't the most successful angler, big fish wise. What he was the whole package. He really was the whole package. I've met very few people that know more about the fishing game than me. I know that sounds a big-headed statement, but that's all I do. You know, when you're at work, that's all I do. I either fish, talk about fishing, learn about fishing, or whatever. That's all I've done for many years. You know, 7 days a week, at night, thinking in bed, whatever. And he was the only one I really thought, you know, knew more and was better. He was just he was a few years older. He was 10 years older, and I'd like to think I could perhaps get to his stage one day. I doubt it. He was so knowledgeable on bird life, on what, you know, on sort of fauna. He really was the business when it comes to that. So as an all-round package, he was the greatest angler. I know a lot of people say, oh, he's a great angler because he caught a 2 pound roach or whatever. Thousands of people catch 2 pound roach. You know, 20 pound pike, sturgeon, whatever. Lots of people have done what John Wilson have done catching wise. And lots of people have got the skill that, I watched James Robbins, the likes of James Robbins, and, you know, John Wilson was good trotting a river, but let me tell you, you know, not as good as the likes of some of these match anglers like James Robbins, etc. But as an overall package, John Wilson was the man. He was the best angler that I think has lived so far. So there you go. Anyway, there's a tribute book. It's out now. The other pages I picked up. There's a double page spread by Paul Garner. He's talking about cheese face. You know, sort of very valuable information at the moment. A lot of people want to catch chub when the river comes down a little bit, or backstreams, or if you're living in an area with not so much rain, which there ain't many. I think at this moment in time, Scotland's doing better than any of us. But you know, it's still a great method. The pastes, especially cheese paste, is a great method for chub, and everybody seems to struggle. I don't know why. He had they seem to struggle whether it's too soft, too hard, or whatever. It's there. The information's there. So it's a super little piece by Paul. Okay, let's go to just remember that we got a lovely prize that Paul from the Nature Trail bought a £100 token from Severn Valley, and has bought a £100 ticket for bait from Severn Valley. And all you need to do is send in your barbel from now till March the 14th, and then the week after or 2 weeks after, you know, the team there at Severn Valley will decide who's the winner. And don't, just because you caught a 5 pounder, that doesn't matter. It ain't going to be, or it might be, but it's not necessarily the record or the 21 or the 19 or 17 or a brace of 15s or whatever. It's up to them, and it'll be the catch. You know, what means the most or where it's from, etc. I don't know, but we'll talk. I'll no doubt help with my influx in with them. So let's hope we will definitely have a worthy winner of a great prize. And again, thank you, Paul, for that. Okay, right. Let's get to, well, we know what we get here normally, and I don't know if John Hettle's wife's guessed what's on next, because she likes to guess what's on the program. Liz. Well, Liz, I hope you've guessed this one right. What we've got is Ambrose cooking again on the bank on a fenland water, enjoying himself, catching a few fish and cooking something nice to eat. Does it get any better?
How are we doing? Just out today on the Relief channel, fishing on the tip for anything what comes along really, but it's just been small roach and it ain't been that easy for fishing, and it's been windy, and yeah, so but we're out and we're fishing, so we've had a few, so I'm happy with that. So now I'm just going to do a quick dinner. Today we're just having burgers. I've got these are good burgers, Marks and Spencer's. They say they're best burgers ever, and they're not far wrong. They are really good burgers. I've just got a couple of Marks and Spencer's rolls, a couple of rashers of bacon. I've got a chopped onion in a tin and a few slices of cheese here. So today we're having a cheeseburger with bacon and onions. So today I'm cooking with my Tracker stove, which is a really good quality stove, and a Tracker grill pan. I might get a bit more stuff in this because I just like it. I like the colour as well, nice green. So right, I'll get that pan knotted up, because what I'm going to do first, I'm just going to cut one of these buns in half, and I'm going to toast it, toast one side of the bun before I put the burgers in. So we'll get that pan hot and we'll get that bun toasted. Right, just toasted the bun off, now it looks about done, so I'm going to put that to one side. It's a very noisy cooker. Bit of wind problems. Let me get all these burgers in. They are a big old burger. Just having the one today. I can eat two, but just the one today. I was missing a lot of bites. I've just been fishing a running rig with probably 18-inch hook length on with a size 16. I was missing a lot of bites, so I switched over to an helicopter rig, put a size 14 on, and threaded the maggot up the hook, and I was hitting a lot more bites because they were only small roach. That worked a lot better, and you work sort of with a bit of chop on the water, you're just moving the tip, and I'm getting very little indication. But once I put the helicopter rig on, it did sort of give me either a decent drop back bite, or I'd see the tip go around. Because these burgers are big, so I'm going to cook it low and slow, if you like, because I want to get it well done, so it will take a little bit of cooking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get that probably 3/4 done, then I'll get my bacon and onions in. Right, my burger's probably 3/4 done, so I'm just going to get my onions in now. Onions always smell lovely when they're fried. And also I've just got a couple of rashers of bacon. I generally like streaky bacon, but we didn't have no streaky, so it'll have to be back bacon. Right, I'll get everything nearly done. Just before I'm done, I'll just put some cheese on top of the burger just to melt a little bit, and we'll get it on that bun, because as per usual, I'm hungry. Right, we're about done, so I'm gonna turn that gas off. Get that burger on first. The cheese probably never got the cheese on quite as quick as I should have. I'll go for right to do this now. A bit of a build. I'll have a couple of rashers of bacon. Which wind I'll take it. It's a real simple one, but I didn't want to waste a lot of time when I'm on the tip, because it's sort of quite busy way of fishing. Onions. I've done a few too many onions. But also I have got a little, just a little tomato ketchup to add to that. There we go. That is a burger. So right, I'm gonna get that out, bit more fishing, and hopefully a few more roach. It'd be nice to give me mate had a really nice one, a nice size one, but mine have been all small. But it's just nice to get a few bites and nice to see that tip twitch away. So right, once again, thank you very much for watching. Tight lines and full bellies. Cheers.
Another super video. As Rick Burton has just said, you can almost smell those onions, can't you? Absolutely superb. Okay, let's move to I'm just asking for this. I think the people that are going to join it have joined it. I'm surprised that there's not more join my YouTube channel. In fact, I have to say I'm a little bit disappointed that so few people have joined it so far. But there you go. There it is. It's Des Taylor's Anglers World. There's all sorts of videos on there. There'll be more and more and more every week. Just like this, it'll improve and get better and better and better and better. And it's free to watch. I don't charge anything. I don't charge for the show. I don't charge for, for this. So just go on, subscribe, push the button, and join us. I'm pretty sure you'll like it. The added advantage is that there's no need to rush on this show on the Friday night, because at the end of the day it goes over as soon as this show finishes. It goes over onto YouTube and you can watch it at your leisure, put it up on the telly and watch it at your leisure anytime. So there you go. Okay, let's go to my tip. I have give this tip. I think I give it every year, and I think it's so important. Rick Burton, I've joined the channel, but it is just a repeat of this show. Yes, it is, that show, but there's lots of other stuff. That's just a small part of it, Rick. But it is a repeat of this show, yes. But you've got to remember that repeat is there all the time. What happens on Facebook after a few weeks, it goes off and it's finished and you can't see it. So there you go. Okay, my tip is this is the season now, just as we're coming into February, March, April, May, of the shows. And I hear so many people down the pub or on the bank and say, no, I don't go, as though they know everything and God knows what you're talking about. I remember that show, I was on there at a CLA show. And, when you consider that there you've got, Ian Eaps, Bob Nunn, myself, and the likes, and you think, my life, the information you can get, and I still enjoy it. There's me with Hassan Khan, I just enjoy going, and I still learn, I'm still learning all the time, and especially from young guys like him. I make sure that, I don't want to speak to the 100-year-old blokes that think they know it all. The ones that say, oh, I started with a porcupine quill on a canal, so I'm bound to be a good angler. Some of these modern lads and kids are absolutely fantastic anglers. Some of them started in carp fishing. That's what they started as. Well, I'll bring that up later. I enjoy going to the shows. I make sure I make a beeline for somebody. Somebody, if there's something I want to know, if you want to go, I have questions every week about, where can I go fishing in France? How do I book up where? If you go to, about Thailand, you go there and Gillam's there. Gillam's got a great big stand there and Stuart Gillam's sitting there and you can go over and say, all right, Stu, I fancy coming to your place. Hey, come on then, mate. And he'll talk you through it, how to book up, how to blah, blah, blah. They're all there, Gillam's son, and, they're there. So you can learn about Thailand, you learn about France, you can learn about your fishing, learn about gear, etc. I just can't see. It's a no-brainer why people shouldn't go to shows or talks. And if there's a local talk, there was a local talk going to be here with Steve Bridges, and it was cancelled. But I was definitely booked on to see it because, again, how can you not afford to listen to a man that's scored, I don't know, 60s in 20 different countries or whatever it is, or whatever, it's been around so long. It is so much. Phil, am I going to the Doncaster Carp Show? Yeah, I'm going. I am going to that show, Phil. And you know, please don't ever get in the habit. Any members don't get in the habit of you know it all. Oh, it's all the same. It's just all the same. No, it isn't all the same. You know that you, as I say about the Angling Times, you only need to pick up one tip. Only need to pick up a few tips. Make a new friend, or whatever. Sitting in isolation, not telling anybody anything, not asking anything, or whatever. You won't move far with your fishing. You really won't move far. You might have your little secret and think, ooh, I got my little roach water. Nobody will ever know about it, and then the roach die. Ah, my little roach water's died and I'm finished. If you'd have just said, after you'd had a few of those roaching and joint, you'd have said, I'll take somebody there. There's a bloke offered me some crucian fishing. He can have some of my roach fishing. I can have some of his crucian fishing. All that sort of thing goes on. It might not be your bag, but that's how you open it up and open up your fishing. And when people say, how do you get these contacts? Because you make them, because you talk to them. And lots of met at shows and met at talk. So, do it. It really is worth it. And the people that tell you it isn't, don't listen to them. Really don't listen to him. The bloke that says, yeah, I've heard it all. I'll catch more than any of them all put together. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Just don't listen and go and listen to the people that know what they're on about. Okay? That's my tip. Listen, go to the shows, enjoy the company. Don't go with set things, oh, it's going to be rubbish or whatever. It ain't. It's going to be good. And the thing is, don't just go like a lot of anglers, plough in there, get your 3 carrier bags full of cheap tattle and cheap bait and then clear off. And I think they bought all that cheap bait and cheap tattle. They don't know how to use it. And yet there's all these people going to be on a stand talking, and they're not going to listen to them because they've gone, oh, I've got me 100 kilos of boilish for 30 quid. That's all I'm interested in. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, so let's go to one of my favourite spots of this programme. I'm always learning something from this. Again, the Nature Trail. Okay, this week from Paul is, this week whilst working in Ludlow, I heard one of my favourite sounds, the metallic peeweed calls from a deceit of lapwings. I was lucky to have the camera on the passenger seat, as I often do. The northern lapwing is a distinctive bird with two-tone coloration and a long crest often seen when the bird is at rest. Historically, they've been associated with good luck. If you're out fishing this weekend and you see a peeweed, a bite is sure to follow. And then we've got Earth Star. My attention, this is obviously Paul, my attention in recent weeks has been drawn to the study of fungi. And this week I saw the Earth Star fungi. We have a handful of different Earth Star fungi in the UK. Related to the puffball, begins small spherical mass. Later, the outer part of the Fuji splits into segments, revealing this spore sac pictured. The pore released is one of nature's wonders. It's hygroscopic. He's even put, look, to help me with how to say it, hygroscopic. When rain drops hot, the papery skin, the pores are released. And I'm waiting for a video actually from Paul. He's got a video of this happening, which is going to be something of interest, something a little bit different. So seeing the water, and with it hygroscopic, it's actually absorbing the water, blows up and away, and away you go. Okay, so another really interesting points from Paul. Thanks a lot, Paul, and thanks again for your token for the 100 quid, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Great member. Okay, let's go to the Zero Fit prize, which the Zero photo of the week, I've given it this week to a chap called Bobby Bose, and The reason I've given it, he's out there in the winter, he's fishing the Yorkshire Ouse for barbel. He hasn't trotted down to the Trent like everybody, he hasn't come down to the Severn. He's fishing his own river, he's set out his stall to catch a decent kipper off the Yorkshire Ouse. God knows how wet and rainy and east wind blowing on Yorkshire Ouse has been these past few weeks, and he's been out there, obviously fishing it the night by the look of it. So I thought, if anybody deserves a zero fit, it's this lad. So he's got one. So the zero fit, as soon as you send your information, he hasn't sent it yet. So if anybody can mention to Bobby, he's won that prize, a lovely prize, 50 odd quid of base layer, really good, and it'll keep him warm for his next big fish off the ooze. So well done for that, super fish. And then the HTO prize, I've given that to Peter Jones, and the reason I've given those lures for the top water lures to the lad, because he set out his stall this year to have a 20 off the canal, the river and a lake, and he's done it. You know, there it is, 22 off the canal, a 20 pound, so many ounces off the river, and a 23 from the lake. You know, tremendous. I've never had a canal 20, not as though I've tried that much, but I've never had one. So well done. You know, you deserve the prize for that. That's for sure. So and just remember, you know, one of the things that I'll always say, you know, I'm selecting these fish for the awards, and really, you know, don't bother about the size. Just send your stuff in, because, you know, as I've proved many times, it's nothing to do with size. It can be size, it can be a size award, but it can be from a particular water, or it might be, you know, a magical photograph or whatever. You've all got a chance of winning. It ain't one of those things like the Drennan Cup that, you know, if you know an 18-pound bream's been put in, you ain't going to win it with a 16-pound bream, are you? You know, so this is like, if you deserve it, as Tim Heskins just said, well deserved. Well, you've you know, he set his own challenge, and got it. Super. That's what fishing's about, setting your own challenges sometimes, not nationally. You know, I want to catch a 40-pounder or whatever, and set your stall out to the likes of Chew. He set out his challenges, and my God, he's done it. So brilliant. Okay, the next one is our man Phil. This time he's going to be talking about quite a common rig for carp fishing, but people are always asking, how do I tie it? What do I do, etc. What bits and pieces do I need to tie it, etc. So there you go. We're going to get Phil Lane talking about the multi-rig. Bring it on, Phil.
Evening, folks, and welcome to a wet and windy evening at Bite Light Towers. And this evening I'm going to take you through a very simple carp rig. It's one of those rigs that if you're only going to use one rig, this could well be the one. You can use it for a bottom bait, although it's more for pop-ups and wafters. It's called the multi-rig. One of the big advantages of this rig is it's really easy to change your hooks if one of them gets blunt, and it's so easy to tie. So I'm just going to grab the camera, take you through the bits that we need to tie it, and then show you how it's done. Okay, so this is the multi-rig that we're going to be tying today. As you can see, it looks very similar to a slip D. The mechanics are very much the same as a slip D rig there. This is set up with a wafter that you'd probably expect to sort of sit like that and just sort of waft around. If it was a pop-up, obviously you'd have a little bit of tungsten just here, and it would pop up accordingly. Will work perfectly well with a bottom bait, but again, probably not a lot of people's first choice for bottom bait rigs. But if you're already fishing a wafter or a pop-up and you feel like a bottom bait might do the job, then you can by all means not change your rig and just bang it back out on this. But I'm going to show you exactly what you're going to need to tie it. So over here, First of all, we have coated braid. Doesn't really matter which brand you're looking at here. It's all very, very good stuff nowadays. Just something that you can give it a little bit of a steam and have a stiffer half and have a much more flexible half near the hook. We're going to need baiting needles, some scissors. We're going to need a hook, and anything in the sort of wide gape or curve pattern will do the job nicely. It's quite a wide range of hooks will be fine with these. We need an anti-tangle sleeve. We need a little micro swivel. Now, about a size, you can see, I was going to see the difference there between a size 20, which you can barely see, and a size 14. For a size 4 hook, a size 14 is great. Size 20s, we're probably looking at a size 8 hook at most, maybe even a size 10, something like that. So it's often difficult to know exactly which ones to go for with these micro swivels, and they are not cheap. Although, as you can see from that bag there, they are the kind of thing you can pick up quite nicely on Temu. We're going to need some bait floss. We're going to need either a kicker, which are these little ones that I say lots of manufacturers make, which give you a little elbow to the rig to make it more aggressive. Or you can do it with a little bit of shrink wrap and just bend it on yourself. A lot of people will do that, especially if they don't want the rig to be quite so aggressive. If you're going to fish pop-ups, we'll need some tungsten, and we're going to need something to put on the hook. So I'm just going to flip the camera back around and we'll have a look at tying it. Right folks, let's show you how to tie that rig. So first of all, we need between 35 and 40 centimetres of your chosen hybrid braid. We're going to half that over, so just fold it in half, end to end, to get the halfway point. Then strip one half, or just under a half is fine. That's that, stripped off. And I'm going to fold that all the way in half. And I'm going to aim to make a loop that's about 1.5 inches in length. So we're doing a figure of 8 knot. You can afford a little bit of scrap on this because we've got enough. You can just see as that tightens up, it'll just form a figure of 8. There it is. And we'll tighten that up, and that looks about right. That looks about 1.5 inches. Okay, so we're just going to trim off the tag end there. There's that gone. Okay, so now we get our hook and just wet it and just fold it flat as you can. Can use a tiny thin needle for doing this, but ultimately you just fold it through there, so it's gone through the eye. We then get our micro swivel and we're going to just pop that through there as well, so you can see that's on that doubled over braid. And then now with the hook through the loop, so it comes all the way over the hook, you see, round the point there. Let me just show you. So that then sits, you can see it forms like a loop on the back of the hook. So as simple as that. So we've just threaded that on and then put the whole hook through the hole. Excellent. So get that roughly into the right place. Now the next thing we need to do is our kicker. Now, so at this point would also be, if you were going to use shrink wrap, you'd thread that on as well. And we're going to thread that up. Now it's best with these kickers if you can get one that's fairly tight, because it will hold it all in place very nicely. I'm going to go past the knot there and just moisten the hook, because if it is fairly tight, it will take a little bit of getting in. Let me just wiggle that in there. Okay, so you can see Oh, there we go. It's popped not quite far enough on. And there we go. So that's always the hardest bit of this. It's just, if you're going to use one of these kickers and you're going to use a tight one, you can see there. There it is all going on, and the kicker made much more aggressive. You can see there. Okay, so now thread on our I've got that on quite a long baiting needle. You could just thread it onto this without any real problems, but I'm going to use the baiting needle, just moistened it slightly, and there we go. We're just going to pull that onto there. We're then going to make another figure of 8 loop in the other end. So there's that, you can see there. We'll just tighten that up. So the figure of 8 is an unbreakable knot. I mean, it's never going to let you down. But I know other people do sometimes use different knots in that position, but the figure of 8, so easy, will not let you down. And then our anti-tangle sleeve just slides up there. Just get that tag end in it. Just give it a bit of a tug. Well, it's such a sharp hook, it's going in my finger. And there we go. And there we have the multi-rig. So then all we'll do from there is we'll thread through some bait floss. So that just goes through the through there, and we're going to get our, in this case I've chosen a pop-up, so I'm going to stick the pop-up onto the bait floss, pull the bait floss through, I'm just going to trim it off. Bit of a big bit I've used there, and it's trimmed down a little bit. I'm just going to get our lighter. I'm just going to burn off that last bit and just flatten it down with the metal part of the lighter to hold that in place. You can see there, that's quite a nice pop-up rig. The only thing we'd add to that is we get our little piece of tungsten, and we just put that on there. Well, however high we want to be popping it up, whatever sort of rig. I mean, you can use this as with worms and things like that as well if you really want to pop it up high. So that would pop up like that. And as I say, operates very much like a slip D rig, but the party piece is this. So if we then take off our kicker, we can unloop the line and take the hook off, and then we just thread another hook on straight away again through the up through the eye. Fresh bait goes on there. Second, hang on, let me just, there, I should have bought my glasses. And the fresh bait goes on and you're ready to go again. And it's as easy as that. So you can use it again and again. You don't need to keep sharpening your hooks. So there you go. That's the multi-rig. Hopefully it'll catch you some fish this year.
Thank you, Phil, for that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people watching tonight would have picked up something from that. Certainly, it's quite a simple rig in nowadays terms. I know that I was talking to Phil. I think the next one he's going to do is talk about the Ronnie rig. And you know, a lot of people ask, you know, to see these things actually tied and what you need, etc., etc. And Phil really does a good job, and I hope it's learning members, and it's a very valid part of the show. I hope Phil can keep them coming. So thanks, Phil. That was super, mate. Absolutely super. Okay, let's get to the question of the week, and the question of the week, obviously, as normal, wins the Willy Worms pudding mix, which I'm sort of ordering every week and just getting bags in stock for my spring and summer, early summer carping, and also for my barbling, just stacking it high, getting ready, because I go through a lot instead of ordering a huge amount in the season. I just keep building it up through the year, and then also obviously we've got this fantastic deal with KJM, and that's this 50 leads, which is absolutely a super thing. There's a mixed amount of leads, you know, different shapes and different sizes, but I think generally you're going to be talking about 2 to 5 ounces is what most people will use of, you know, flat pairs and normal pairs, etc., etc. So and a few of the ones with the those like with the hole in the centre, the gripper leads as well. So great prize from KGM. And the winner this week is Dave Smith, and I thought it was very applicable to this time of year, or this year, when we've had so much water and the rivers are so high, and people still want to go in them, on them. And I know in the past we've had anglers showing how to wade into the water to find out where there might be half a mile back in the fields, but try and find where the river is or whatever. I would say to that, definitely don't do it. I've got a saying: if in doubt, do nout. There's loads of fishing to be done without trying to find where the river is in a flood. You know, there's loads of perch fishing, loads of roach fishing, loads of what's that. Makes good photography, looks good, but it's dangerous, highly dangerous. You could slip in, you could die that day trying to find the river, especially if you're on your own. So if in doubt, do nout. What I've put here, that if it's flood water, I don't do it. And always take somebody with you if you're fishing with the waders. Always, you know, if you're wading, you know, get somebody within shouting distance of you. For God's sake, it is a dangerous game. And what I would always say: take a wading stick, buy a quality wading stick, and one with a bit of weight in it, especially weighted to the bottom so that it don't get pulled away in the current. It needs to be weighted at the bottom, and so that when you're putting it in, it goes against the flow. And then even when it's shallow water, there is rocks and there is little holes in the water, then just go out, you know, nicely with your wading stick, and you know, you can easily put your stick down the side they've got special straps, and you can get it out the way for when you're actually fishing. So, you know, just make sure. And as for waders, you know, I've used many different types of waders over the years, but my favourite now certainly are what the salmon anglers use, and that's your waders and a boot. You know, you've got a sock on the wader, and it goes in a really good quality boot. It ain't a part of the wader like a Wellington and slippy. You can have different kinds of boots. You can have different kinds of studs. You can have a felt bottom. You can have studs, etc. And those are, for me, the best. They are expensive, but to be honest, you know, how much is money compared to your life? So it is quite dangerous. But having said that, to me, you know, it's absolutely imperative that, you know, you enjoy it. It's one of the most delightful ways of fishing. And I remember a well-known angler a few years saying that there's nothing better than feeling it won when you're out in the water with waders, and that's so true. With the water coming past you, rustling past you, and you can hear the sound, and you're actually in water. You know, you're away from the bank, and you're especially if you're near to the centre. It's fantastic, and it makes fishing so simple. You know, it really does. Even if you're not the best float angler and the best trotter in the world, it's dead easy, because literally, you know, you're dropping the bait at your feet, you're dropping the float in and letting it go away from it so straight. You ain't chucking out and having to mend the line or whatever. It's just dropped in front of you, and you know, that is a fantastic way of fishing, and it really is. Tony Mills, evening, Des. When will you be releasing the review of your Cadence float rods? Very soon. I've got other tests to do against big fish. I can't test them on barbel at the moment, but you know, if I can test them against 10 and 12 pound carp, you know, we've done all the other testing on it, Tony. But I just need to finalise, you know, the power of them, because, as I've said in the past, these Cadence specimen float rods are not going to be just a stepped up match rod. They are a specimen rod. So that's it. Wade by all means. Nobody likes wading. In fact, on the top end of the Severn, wading out grayling fishing in the rivers, probably my favourite way of fishing. It really is. But be safe. That's for sure. Be safe. Okay. 2, Mike Eagles. He's asked for 5 mistakes. I did say when he actually phoned me up. He's a very good friend of mine, Mike, and Mike said, I've got a question for you. I said, what is it? And he told me, and he said, how about 5 mistakes? And I said, one of the biggest mistakes I had was meeting you, Mike, and we both laughed. I'm joking. He's a very dear friend, and he's a lovely bloke. But he's asked for 5 mistakes. You know, not my successes. Why would Mike want to hear about that? He would like to hear what a fool I am. So I would think one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was a silly mistake, Mike, was I was fishing with Richard Foster, and we were fishing Lake Nasser, and we got about probably 4 or 5 rods on the top of the cabin of the boat, with the hooks our way on the lures, and they were big lures and big hooks, like size 2 hooks on them, you know, real big Rapalas and real big hooks. And the deck was slippy, and I slipped, and to stop myself going, I grabbed the top of the cabin, and as I grabbed the top of the cabin, I grabbed one of the lures, and as I slid away, one of these massive hooks barbed, went straight into my little finger, right to the bone. And to be honest, you know, what could I do in terms of, it was probably 5 hours, whichever way we do it, unless they flew in an helicopter, and they ain't going to fly an helicopter for a black country bloke that's been daft enough to put a hook in his finger. But it would have been 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours before I could have got to hospital, and I'd have missed the fishing anyway. So I said to the guide, I said, it's got to come out, hasn't it? He said, yeah. I said, well, let's not muck around, you know, it's warm, I'm starting to feel the pain, you know. It wasn't in the winter pike fishing. This was like probably 35, 40 degrees. So I was feeling the pain straight away. And he put a forceps on. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go that way. You go that way. And it'll come out. And it did. And it actually brought all the folds of skin out from my finger out. And it took about an hour and a half as I watched the skin, as the body retracted the skin back into my finger. Yeah, that was a grave mistake, a real grave mistake. Let me just put here right, I've got one here. I really am, as I get older, think to myself, I should have given myself a real good chance up in the Himalayas. You know, friends like Steve Greenway and whatever went years and years ago and fished it. And at nearly 75, I'm not sure whether I want to be climbing up mountains and hills and in fast flowing Indian rivers. You know, I went to the southern India, and there's certainly bigger fish in southern India, but I wouldn't be going to the Himalaya for the size of fish. I would be going for the experience, and so I'm a little sad that I didn't do that one. That's for sure. But that's another one that was a mistake of mine. Number 3, not fishing Queensford Lagoon the famous Bream water that broke all records beyond belief. And I remember, I've quoted this before, being on there with Knowlesy, fishing there for pike, and we found a bream, or Nola did. He found a bream of about £3, and I remember him saying just like yesterday. He said, Des, I wonder if there's any monster bream in here. And I said, no, I can't see it, mate. Look at the size of that. It looks like almost a bloody skimmer, doesn't it? No, I can't see it. And I think that season, a couple of months later, Alistair Nicholson broke the bream record from 12 or 13 pound right over to 14. Then he went 15, 16, and the rest is history. And I could have been on that, like the week after, and I'm sure they'd have been a lot easier than when they were under pressure. So there you go. That was another grave mistake of Taylor. The other one, I've got number 4. He's taking my hat off in Norway, Mike. I remember it was I think it was minus 18, minus 22 some days. And I'd got a fur hat on, it was sort of, I wouldn't say famous, infamous fur hat on. I was getting really hot. The sun was out, and yet it was so cold. And I took my hat off just to cool down a little bit. And within, I don't know, 20 minutes or whatever, suddenly I was talking, and Olga, the chap who was with me, said, "What are you doing? Why have you took your hat off?" And there I was, I was going. It got to my head, and well, I was in some trouble, and he put one of these foil round me and the hat back on, and eventually came round better. But that was a grave mistake. Hypothermia was coming in really, really quick. You just don't well, you probably do in your job, but it really is. It really is a bad one. That was. It really knocked me back. Gave me the biggest headache I've ever had. So there you go. And number 5, well, number 5 is one from when I was a kid that probably I'll remember all my life, because I know my mother gave me a clouting in my life. In the old house that we had, the old council house at Brickhouse Estate, in my room there was a built-in wardrobe. It was quite common in the days, it was just a door, and inside was a little step up that you put things and put your clothes in. And I'd got some clothes in there, but my mother had bought me a wardrobe, and I used to use this as my little tattle den. And I'd got my little cantilever box and all that, and the only rod I'd got, and the only reel, and a bit of line, and some shot, and stuff that I used to buy every week from the tattle shop. But I committed the cardinal crime. I bought some maggots back, and I thought I'll leave the top off because it'll sweat them, and they did sweat anyway. And I can't remember if it was half a pint or a pint, but it was a lot of maggots when it was under the lino in my bedroom and all over the room. And mother went absolutely berserk, and right from then my gear was sent down to the shed, and I was not allowed to bring any fishing tackle into the bedroom again. Probably the biggest mistake and the biggest good idea that fishing's given me. So there are 5 classics, but to be honest, Mike, I'd probably talk about 3 hours, probably 10 hours about the mistakes I've made, because you end up making lots of mistakes, and the only thing you got to do is try and learn from them. I always say to people on my guide days, when I'm talking to you, don't think I think I'm clever, that I was born like this and do this, do that, do this. I've made all the mistakes, a lot worse than you, but I've learned from them and become a better angler from them. And that, as I say, I could tell you 5 each week. So there you go. And right, Luke Anglin. Luke Gilman said, the worst weather you caught fish in. Well, to be honest, the worst weather I can ever remember, and it wouldn't be cold, it wouldn't be rainy, it would be just the opposite. When I fished in Kazakhstan for, I think we were there 8 or 9 days, Kazakhstan was 40 degrees all the time we was there. We were on a river, and I've never seen so many insects, and there were so many horseflies there. that this is gospel. We couldn't go to the toilet. We couldn't drop our kegs till night time, because if you did, your ghoulies and your backside was bit to pieces. It was unbelievable. It was the only time we sat there in full netting, not netting over your head, in full netting, all over the body, all around your legs and everything. You just sat there in full netting and thinking, what the hell am I doing here? And that was probably the worst. And we caught them up to just short of £100, the cats. And was it worth it? No, it wasn't. It was absolutely horrendous condition, horrendous weather. You know, I've no doubt there's different types of the year you can go. But around about that same time, Kevin Maddox went for about 6 weeks. We did a week. And Kevin Maddox, who broke the world record over there for cats, I mean, such an hard guy. He went over for 6 weeks, I think it was. Now, anybody, you know, how you would survive in there for 6 weeks, I do not know. You know, I wouldn't. We spent 6 hours getting on. Well, we got an option of you could fly a Russian helicopter and take half an hour or whatever it was, or you could jump on a boat and take you 6 hours. Well, if you've ever seen an helicopter and know that, you know, in Canada they give it the Indian guides or the Canadian guides for their when they finish the hours in the air, they pass them down. You sure as hell don't want to be on a Russian helicopter, and I didn't, and I took the hard way. So we straight away was in a boat for 6 hours with insects biting you all day long. It really was horrendous. So yeah, I would say that's the worst conditions I've. Luke says, wow, that sounds pretty grim. Let me tell you, Luke, it was a lot worse than grim. A lot worse. Okay, Fish Paste Face has asked this one. I can only fish Saturdays, and I love the river. What conditions and whatever can I tell you? You haven't got the time. You've only got 8 hours or whatever on a Saturday. Let me tell you, and good luck to you. You can make the most of it. You know, don't think it. Don't think too much. Just go. Think of your species that you're going to fish for and just go. Because at the end of the day, it's people like me that can fish 7 days a week if I want to, or if I fish forward, I can fish the best forward or the best 2 of the week or whatever. I can fish the best times. You can't, right? So forget all the apps, forget all the weather, forget all that. Just put your gear in the car. Say, I'm going barbel fishing this week, this Saturday, and look forward to it all week in your work, and then put your gear in the car and just clear off. And enjoy it, because if you've only got 1 day and you're going to try to make the most of it to be in the best conditions for the best speed, virtually impossible. You know, you can guarantee that, you know, most Saturdays or whatever, just go. You know, Lee McManus said, can only fish Saturday, then just go Saturday and make the best of it. Exactly, Lee. You know, and that's it. If you can only fish 1 day and 1 night, don't look at it. Don't think it. Don't overthink it. Just go. Just go. Put your gear. Be happy. Put it in. Go. Oh, that was pretty shite. Didn't catch. But next Saturday, you know, I've got a chance to catch. You will never compete. You will never compete with people that can fish all the times they want to, or a professional angler can fish anytime or whatever. But you ain't competing. You got a job. You said about your family commitments. You got your family. You got your job. That's your main thing. You ain't an angler. You know, you ain't a professional angler. You're a bloke that enjoys his fishing once a week. Enjoy it. Don't think too much. Just get out and enjoy it. Hope that's helped you, mate. Thomas Hart. The first real buzz Des you had in angling. And one that you can remember to this day. Well, obviously my first fish was a buzz, but the first real buzz I can remember that probably changed my thoughts was a couple of things which I went to Ireland when I was 15, went with a mate's mother, and she took the 2 of us, me and David Homer, and we were fishing Loch Allen, and we were in a reeded area, very, very shallow area, and we were fishing tobies, you know, probably the worst thing you'd fish in shallow water, but we were fishing tobies, and we were bringing them, and we were catching jackpots, and they were parting the reeds. You know, as the lure went by the side of the reeds, they were parting the reeds as they came out and nailed it, and bosh, got it. It was such a buzz. And then I caught a perch about this big, and I ain't got a clue what I was doing. In live baiting's banned, and it was banned then. I put a hook, a big hook in it, and slung it out, and it was on the top. It just floated on the top, and I let it get down the river. This is the river just below Loch Allen, and I remember Rick Burton Island, God's Home, Dunshambro. This was it, and this was the river just outside of Dunshambro, and it was just lying on the top, and this pike, a monster of all monsters. It was probably in reality might have made double figures if I was lucky. Might have been £8, it might have been £12, I don't know. But certainly my biggest pike at the time was about £3 that we were catching in the reeds, £3 or £4, probably £2 or £3. And this one came up to the top, engulfed it, took it down and bit me off because I ain't got a wire trace, I don't think, and that was it. But that was the biggest buzz, and from then I was starting along the road of being a pleasure specimen hunter. I was on the way, and I'll always remember that was the biggest pike I ever saw come up to my bait, and I'll always remember sort of we got Wellington, so we couldn't go out very far. We'd just be casting down the side of the reeds, and just we had to really quick because it had hit the bottom, and we'd be cast real, and it was away. Oh man, job done, fantastic. So that was the buzz, Thomas. Yeah, just a quick one here. The Devon Christopher Rowe said, describe your fishing adventure so far. I'd just say brilliant and amazing. My adventure has been great, and anybody's fishing adventure is great. And as I said right at the start of the show, I'm not out there to endure things. I just can't think. If somebody said there's a good film on today, or sometimes like England's playing Wales or whatever, and I say, well, I'll watch it tonight or I'll watch it tomorrow on the replay. I'd rather be out. I'd rather do things myself. I was always a doer rather than a watcher, and yeah, it's been amazing. That's the word. James Lomax, are canals really still worth fishing? And is it a shame that people don't start on the canals anymore? That's James Thomas. Let's just say, yes, the canals are still worth fishing. There's still specimen fish, and there's still fish to be caught. They don't necessarily all have to be specimen. Canals are lovely waters. They're very pretty waters. You can come out of industry and then go. And one of the best canals I ever looked at was in Lee, with the factories and the mills by the side. I just thought it was a beauty of its own making. It was really, really nice. But when you get out, say in Shropshire, near Norbury, and the little quaint bridges over the absolutely fabulous fishing. But I've heard this so often that, to start fishing, the kids have got to go back to a float on the canal, catch some small gudgeon and whatever. And then you'll be an angler, and you'll be a better angler and all that. And let me tell you something now. Some of the worst anglers I've met at my age, we started on canals and we did it all the right way or whatever. And some of the worst anglers I've met are them. So don't think that the right way is, if you come into the sport, that's the right way. If you want to, you want to keep in your own little world, that's what you'll do, or you'll expand. If somebody comes in carp fishing, they'll either get fed up of it, or they'll carry on with it, or pack up or whatever. The same with canal fishing. As the hard thing is not to push people away and say, oh, you should start on the canal. You should, because to get a kid to start on the canal now, why the hell would he want to start catching gudgeon when he can catch a £20 fish on a commercial? It ain't the wrong way to start. He's just started, and that's all we need. We need people to come in, start fishing, and then they can do. It's up to us then. Once you've got them, once they've got this, the gene and the urge to carry on, then you got something to work with, and then you can take them onto, tow fishing and trout fishing and whatever, and away you go. Okay, so yeah. It's still worth canal fishing, but not necessarily, you've got to start your kids on a canal or whatever. Start them on a canal by all means, but it ain't the one and only way to start them. If I had a kid now, and I would say, 25 years of age, 30 years of age now, and I had a kid 5 or 6 years of age, I'd take him to the local and catch him a few fish, and I'd take him. The thing I'd want to do is I'd take him on a little river, take him up the stream, get him in the water, with waders all Wellington, and learn him the mechanics of the river. A little tiny stream, and learn him what causes undercuts, what causes sort of slacks, etc. What causes erosion? What's the difference between silt and gravel and whatever? And show him all those things, and learn him about that. And that's what I'd do. And then, okay. Basically, going on from that, Callum Saunders has said, what would be my advice to a new angler? And I put here, learn and listen to quality anglers. It's so easy to listen to people. This is, my advice to a new angler, Callum. It's a good, I nearly put this as the question of the week, actually. And at the end of the day, that's so right, Paul. Paul Bradley, just love of angling is the right way. That's exactly right, Paul. If you're loving it, then you're doing it right. As long as you're not doing something that you love in the sport and upsetting everybody else, But that's great. A lovely saying. I'll quote that: "Love of angling is the right way." So, what I would say is learn from quality. There's so many people out there that give advice, and they're trying to help you. They're giving advice, etc. But you got to get it off the best. I've always made sure that when I'm listening, I'm looking at their success. Do they win matches? Then if I want to fish matches, I'd listen to a chap that win matches. I wouldn't listen to a chap that's won one club match in 30 years and he's trying to tell me how to match fish. I wouldn't listen to a chap that's caught one 3-pound tench and one such and such, and he's trying to tell me how to specimen fish. That's what I think. And then the other thing is, I'd say go as often as possible, because the more you go, the more you will learn. And then learn everything. Enjoy the countryside. Enjoy the bird life, enjoy nature, enjoy it, because once you get into that, that's why when I'm out in the weather's so bad and whatever, there's so many other things to learn, there's so many other things to see. I might not be catching a fish that minute. I'm looking at the other day I was looking at 2 perch rods, and all of a sudden I was with Steve, and I said, Jesus Christ, Steve, look at that. And there was a beautiful, beautiful big rainbow come over the top of the rods. And, who would see that? You certainly wouldn't see it watching the chase, would you? But, so that's what I'd do. That'd be my advice. Listen to people that know what they're on about. It's dead easy to find people that know what they're on about, because if they catch, they're doing something right. If they catch big fish, or they catch it matches, or they're good pleasure anglers, or whatever. If they don't catch sod all and they're willing to tell you everything, the chances are they ain't that good. They might be nice people and they might be trying to help you, but listen to people that know what they're on about. And the second is go as much as possible. Learn as much as you can. That has been seen with Luke Gilman, who was asking a question earlier on. I said this exactly to Luke, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, and I've seen him develop, going as much as he can, learning as much as he can, mixing with mixing with the likes of Lee Harrison, myself, etc., etc. There you go, and that's what you end up with. A Luke Gilman that comes out with me and tans my arse most times. So there you go. Okay, right. That's the end of the questions. Willie Worms, the Boilie Prize. That was Tracy Jensen. I don't know the son's name. I was waiting for the answer, and it hadn't come to me till but he caught this lovely. It's what it means to people. A beautiful fish. It's his first winter carp, whatever that is. Whether it's his first winter carp this year or his first ever winter carp, I don't know. But it's a lovely, clean fish, and holding it right, all the gear, lovely. Lovely, a super fish, well done. And the boilies are on the way, young man. And if you can catch a big one on the Frankfurters, then let us know. And then the Dinsmore Prize, the Dinsmore prize. What a beautiful kipper. Lovely. The fins are perfect. Colour's a bit washed out, and I think that's because it's a very heavily coloured river on the Severn. But beautiful fish, and that's from Andrew Down. It's his first £3 roach, first £3 perch, and you know that is a super fish. I don't know if it was £3 exactly or just over 3 or whatever. It's a beautiful fish, and he caught it on the lure. And I've got a feeling that might not be his last one. I can see his little lure rod standing there, and well done. There you go, lovely, well done. It's on your way. There'll be a show next week. There'll be a show next week, and then I'm not so sure. Then I am going away. Me and Steve are going a distance, which I keep to myself. We're going a distance away and hopefully catch some nice kippers. But I'm sort of next Friday I'm doing one, and then maybe the Friday after, and then I'm away for a week's fishing with Steve, and then when we come back, I'll hopefully have some great stories to tell from our adventure. But I'll let you know more about that nearer the time. So I hope you've enjoyed the show. I think that's just about it. I'm just going to finish off me rum and coke, and go and watch the telly with the missus, and think whether I'm going to the trout show tomorrow. So have a good one. Watch how you go, and I'll see you next time. All the best.